Hey everyone, welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes podcast. I'm Shelly Hughes. In this podcast, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of business ownership and entrepreneurship. We talk about lessons learned, mistakes, challenges, and really the celebrations we have in growing a profitable and passionate business. Today, we are talking about one of the values that I put into place at Nolia Roots from the very beginning, and that is how to do business without doing evil. I am a capitalist, have been for a long, long time. I think it helps with competition in the business space, which helps with innovation, helps with keeping prices down. I think having a capitalist society, especially with a focus on small business, really helps grow the entire community. It helps create jobs. It helps, really brings our society forward in so many ways that non-capitalist societies physically can't do. And it's truly because small businesses run this country. I have some stats here. There are almost 34 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses employ almost 46% of American workers, or about 59 million people. Small businesses are about 43.5% of the national GDP. And it's really important to protect small businesses and not just bash capitalism altogether. But I think capitalism gets a lot of hate because businesses can sometimes act as unethical, and we see this a lot with, unfortunately, pharmaceutical companies. We see this a lot with some of these big businesses, that honestly, some of these big businesses are doing really, really good stuff, but and we see this with small businesses too, that sometimes greed and that drive for profit, it can cause a lot of collusion. It can cause a lot of collaboration with the media that isn't very ethical. It can just, you know, for example, Apple is, one of the biggest companies in the United States. And, we say slavery is abolished, but they are literally using essentially slave labor to create our iPhones. Joe Rogan talks about this on his podcast. There are, where iPhones are created, they literally had to create a net around the warehouse where these iPhones are created because so many people were trying to jump to their deaths because they were essentially slaves. A lot of them couldn't leave. They were working crazy hours. I think with this search for profit, there is a lot of unethical practices that happen in business. But I think that's why, I'm coming at this, and this is one of our core values of it is possible to do business without doing evil. And I want to talk about that today because, I do think that good and evil are sometimes mixed in business with that need for profit. Um, you know, People can be doing things in business that is kind of a little bit evil, but kind of guised as good. For example, they might engage with business that will increase the welfare of themselves, their family, their society, but it might not help, their employees or maybe even the environment. So I think there is a lot of good and bad, and sometimes it's mixed in business, but overall, there's this amazing opportunity for businesses, even if, part of their business is not the most, ethical. So maybe, cars, they, put some pollutants in the air or something like that. I think a lot of these businesses can do things like, hey, we understand our cars are putting out these pollutants. Here's what we're doing, and we know that's not going away anytime soon because, electric cars, we are simply not there as a society to really embrace electric cars yet fully. Um, I think it's ridiculous to think that every single person can have an electric car, and not break down the grid. What are we going to do with these car batteries once they die in 10 years? They can't be recycled. I think there's so many things that, some of these people, especially environmentalists, are saying, let's talk about wind power. Let's talk about these electric cars. Um, I think that's a lot of kind of, um, you know, gaslighting the actual issue. Um, but all in all, I think there are things that businesses can do to really do business without doing evil, or at least trying to combat it in some way. Um, you know, and how to do that. I think obviously there are ethical business practices. So integrity, right? Integrity and respect. If you can start with that, respecting your customers, respecting your employees, respecting your environment, respecting the business culture, I think that's all, respecting each other, I think that's all really important. Um, and really don't prioritize that profit of an expense at the expense of an ethical behavior. I think that's kind of the key part of this. And, let's talk about employees for a second. Um, Agencies in general, it's very hard to make a profit in agencies because a lot of times you get a new client, you have to get a new person. And so it's really hard to do that work. So for a typical agency, we saw a lot of burnout with the employees because they were getting more and more clients, they were increasing a lot of the accounts, but they weren't hiring more people because like I said, it's service-based companies. You try to put as much efficiency and pack as many things you can do in the amount of hours of the day. And I remember back in, as I was an intern in agency life, I was working till 10 o'clock at night, racing to the train to try to get the last train home. Um, and you know, I think when I started this company, this agency, I said, okay, what was the problem there? Right. And how can I morph this company so that my employees are happy? I literally remember working at agencies and just seeing people cry almost every single day. Someone in creative art is crying in the corner. My higher up, like she was going to the COO and crying because she was so overwhelmed. And I was like, that doesn't seem like the most, like, why is that happening? Right? Obviously, there's something unethical. And of course, businesses have to make a profit, right? So I had to rethink opening this agency of how can I have ethical best business practices when it comes to my employees so that they are happy, that there is not a lot of churn, there's not a lot of turnover in employees, and they feel really fulfilled and energized to come to work. And so that's why I created the business model the way that I did, where I have some key individuals on the team, but we have an army of contractors that I have worked with dozens of times that can come in on certain projects. So it's not all in house. So yes, the business has a profit because we don't need five different web developers on the team to do five different kinds of jobs. One's more technical, one might involve a CRM, one might be a e-commerce site. They all might have, it might be different designers, it might be different developers. So I have all them as contractors and freelancers. So when a client comes to me and says, hey, here's my style, here's my budget, here's what I need, here's the functionality of my website, for example, this can be applied to other services like social media. This can be applied to services like email writing, blog writing, PR, all that kind of stuff. I know I need to tag this developer, I need to tag this designer, I need to tag this writer who is very knowledgeable about this certain industry or topic, and our in-house people will manage everything. So that's one way I have really combated that that evil that I saw a lot in these big agencies is, making this business model all about um, sustainability of people's energy and people's time. Um, but another way that businesses can really do business without doing evil is this idea of corporate social responsibility. Um, we talk about corporate social responsibility a lot when it comes to our PR clients. And, it, and this goes back to like, what is the definition of evil? Um, if a client can engage in corporate social responsibility because they truly feel passionate about a topic, and that's usually where it starts, right? Um, a one of our clients, Corking Candles, they have a passion for rescue dogs, they have a passion for veterans, and they have a passion for pediatric cancer. And just because of their background, where they come from, experiences that they've had. And so, from a PR perspective, we were able to support them on engaging and giving back to those three causes in different ways, right? We would host adoption events at the store and all these different things, and people can engage in corporate social responsibility practices from a hey, businesses have a lot of power in our society. We have a lot of resources, we have a lot of power. We are able to enact these things that and support these things that we see aren't getting enough attention that an individual might not be able to do by themselves. Um, on the opposite hand, right? And from a PR perspective, if you engage in some of these corporate social responsibility practices or programs that you are developing, that shines you on a really positive light to the community, right? It's saying, oh, this person isn't just doing business. They're not just taking my money for, this product, but they're helping our overall community as a whole. I feel more loyalty toward them. So, and I'm not saying that corporate social responsibility, I'm not saying that people engage in corporate social responsibility simply because it gives them kind of a leg up on how they are viewed and how they're perceived by their clients, customers, and their community. But because that might be seen as evil, right? We're doing this because it's going to make us look good. Um, we don't work with clients like that. Our clients all really have this passion when they do engage with corporate social responsibility. They already have this passion for X, Y, and Z. And we're there to say, hey, like, let's spread the word. Let's make that happen more for you through strategic partnerships, sponsorships, all this different stuff. And then let's shout it from the rooftops because I think more people need to see that businesses are doing things like this that are bettering our community. Um, you know, and so if you're a business owner, I really strive for you to say, okay, what kind of business practices are you in now? Right. And, even if, like I said, even if some of your business practices innately or inherently are negative in some ways, how can you combat that in a lot of other ways? So, like Apple, why don't you, make your phones in a way that's more ethically responsible? I know it's going to be much more expensive, and there are different ways to combat that, right? Um, it might be a good idea to stop pharmaceutical advertisements on TV because, pharmaceutical ads aren't on TV to sell pharmaceuticals necessarily, but it's a way to entice the media to be on their side and not speak poorly about them when something goes awry, right? So I think there's a lot of unethical practices happening right now. Um, Number one, to stop those that are really obvious. But if you are doing things that it just innately are contributing negatively to your community or environment, what are some ways that you can help with that, right? So if you're a paper company, maybe yes, you know that you have to chop down trees to make paper. Okay, Dunder Mifflin knows this, right? Maybe Dunder Mifflin then puts, a program together to plant trees in certain areas, right? So even I think there are a lot of ways that you can eliminate unethical practices altogether, or you can say, hey, this is an inherently part of our business. Here's how we're trying to kind of have that net zero harm, for our community, for our society, for our environment. And the other thing is, even if it has nothing to do with your company, um, find something you're really passionate about, right? And how can you be more involved in that? How can you be part of a board of a current nonprofit? How can you create a nonprofit of your own? I know a client of ours, Evolution Financial Group. So how it works is it's a financial advisory group, right? And they all have financial advisor. They have a bunch of financial advisors who have their own clients. Evolution Financial Group, they created this nonprofit called the Foundation, and they donate money and they help host events based on the topics and the interests and the passions of their different advisors. So they have a fund. If this advisor is really passionate about breast cancer research and breast cancer awareness, there's a fund that can donate directly to that person's passion, where they want the money to go to. Um, they host a charity, golf outing, um, because one of their advisors, his wife had cancer, and they host the charity golf outing every single year to raise money for research for that particular cancer. So they were able to, like, instead of go after one thing, they created a nonprofit and foundation that can um, give to any type of charity or organization that they want. And it's really great for HR and employee retention. And you can see we got an Irving foot here. Don't mind that. Um, because it's showing their employees that EFG cares about them. And actually, we just got them in an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer talking about different kinds of benefits you can give your employees that might not be the typical 401k match and healthcare benefits, because people are moving jobs so often, and it's so hard to keep people in this labor market. And so we had the director of operations featured talking about this program that they have, and basically saying you need to care about what your employees care about. And EFG did just that through their corporate social responsibility. Actually, Nolia Roots, we are currently building out a program right now. I don't want to talk about it really in depth quite yet because it's not in stone, but we're building a program that's really going to help a lot of our education system and a lot of our youth in certain ways. So more information on that, but find something that you're really passionate about. And I think that if you go after that, you're able to really be able to go to sleep at night and say, "Hey, I'm doing business without doing evil." Um, other ways that we can do this. I wrote down some ideas, as I was thinking about this episode. A company can prioritize fair labor practices, for worker well-being instead of that cheap labor, like I said with Apple. A manufacturer can invest in sustainable production methods to really reduce that environmental impact, even if it's at a slightly higher cost. And again, that cost is going to trickle down sometimes um, to um, the buyer, the consumer, but that consumer has to really decide on who they want to buy from. So that's why PR is really important to promote some of these really good things that these businesses are doing. So if let's say a tech company is really focusing and putting R&D into some accessible products, to some of the diverse customers instead of the high paying customers. Or let's go back to the sustainable production method. So let's say that company A, they have really sustainable production methods, they're paying their people well, they have a great product, and their product is maybe two times the price of their competitor, for example, who has no sustainability, treats their employees like crap. They have a net around their warehouse in Bangladesh because people are jumping to their deaths because it's essentially slave labor. If someone's looking at these two products, and the company that's doing really good things to develop their product, in ethical ways, if they don't promote, like, hey, here's the reason our product is twice the price, then every single person is going to go with the cheaper product if the product is essentially the same. So, and again, that's so PR and promoting that you do really good things isn't necessarily to get people to think that you're better, but it's also a reasoning of why your prices might be higher. So again, one of our core values: you can do business without doing evil. I believe it through and through. And I would love to kind of hear from you on the certain things that you do and you combat in your industries to make sure you are doing business without doing evil. And how we can kind of have more of these conversations to call out some of these businesses that might not have the most ethical practices. Let's have the whistleblowers keep whistling. Let's have the media still calling them out. Let's have the media not in some of these big companies' pockets, because then these companies will never, they will never be reported and exposed, which is bad for our entire community. So I hope this was fun. Kind of weird topic today, but something that I think coming into the holiday season is really important to talk about. As you're shopping this holiday season, really look into the businesses that you're buying from. Shop small, because I think if you shop from a business that is in your community, that is owned by someone in your community, a whether it's online or brick and mortar, one sell can make that person's day, right? They might have, their prices might be higher, right? Because they need to, because they are a smaller business, compared to some of these bigger businesses that they can just flush out some of these small guys that Amazon does all the time, to put them out of business by just dropping their prices a ton because they're so big. If you buy from some of those big guys, no one will even notice. But if you buy from some of these small shops that have these really ethical practices in their business, it's gonna freaking make their day. So think about that when you're shopping this holiday season. And I hope you have a great day. If you like this episode, please comment below. Please leave me a 5-star below, because it's really going to get this information out to more people. So appreciate you.